Hey guys, welcome back to this video podcast. Now on Facebook and Twitter, I put a post out for a question and answer session, and I said I'd reply in a video. Now we got many questions, and I've got at least 20 anyway, and they're very great questions, and I'll do my very best to give you the information that are my insight, my own personal advice. Remember, I'm no doctor or anything. I just do lots of audios. I work for clients, do trainings and seminars. So there's just my own advice from my own experience, my own thoughts for how you can make changes. So with that in mind, I'm going to intend to reply to each one. There'll be times where I'll be directing you to audio that I've already recorded, which will answer that question far more detail and probably have a hypnosis track or something to really help you at times. There may be, I'm going to keep this to a minimum because I'm not a seller, but there might be a paid track which will really get the outcome. But I'm going to try and give you all the advice I can right now, completely free. That's what I do. If you're on Facebook and Twitter and so on, you'll notice I never sell things. I'm just really here to serve and help you and support you in any way that you can. So let's get right to it. So the first question is, how do you respect those that have no respect for anything or anyone? When do you draw the line between conforming to a situation and being used? Well, there's a great question, and it's one that you may not like the answer all the time. I personally believe, my own thought process is that I'm here to support and help anyone who really wants to step up and be supported and get help. Now, if I personally have someone or something in my life which is really going and abusing me or has no respect for what I'm doing or the things I'm trying to give and support, then I'm going to put in the equal energy back. Now, I really am one for supporting others, and I will give people many changes or chances. But at the end of the day, if people are unreceptive for that support, then I'm not going to allow that person in my life to continue to damage my own emotional well-being. You've got to be really clear with this. You have to be number one in your life. And I say that because when you're number one, you are able to look after and help those around you in the most amazing way. But if your energy is continuously being drained by someone where there isn't that cooperative flow of energy, then they're not going to get value from you supporting them because they're abusing it. And also, your health, your emotional well-being is going to be damaged as well. So to me, that line is when you start to be sacrificing your own time and energy and emotional health, then that's where the line has to be drawn. And when that person is ready, you can always say, I'm always here to support you, but I'm not willing to carry on supporting you if you're not going to pay attention and be conscious of what I'm doing here. And at that point, you bring it to their attention, therefore they're now conscious of this. Because the chances are they might not even be conscious of what they're doing. They just think it's expected. And, I mean, we've all been in a situation where if something is a given to them or ourselves, we think, well, we expect more of the same. So if we bring it to their attention, it will mean they're now at least conscious. And then it's up to them to take responsibility for their own actions and their own ways of being in the world. And then when they're ready, then you'll be able to support them. Yes, once again, I do believe in supporting people, and I will give people lots of chances, but when it does affect my own emotional well-being, then there has to be a line drawn. And I have been talking to people who've actually done this with their own family. There's been times when we've had to cut people out of their life for the greater good. And in the long term, although in the short term it can be quite painful or we can feel bad for doing this, in the long term, we're empowering them to make a change. And when they're ready, they're going to make a change. So I'm very much in for giving and helping as many people as possible, but there is that line. If I start to get emotionally hurt by this or emotionally unwell or physically unwell by what I'm trying to help someone, then that's no good for me, and it's definitely not very good for them either. So that's where I draw the line personally. That's my own opinion there. So I hope that answers that question. The next one is, hey Joseph, once I'm moving towards a goal, feeling confident, a little ego voice appears again with a message of, you don't know what you're doing and you don't have the confidence. So my question is, when I rise above to positivity and certainty that I can achieve my goals, how do I stay there? Well, let's focus on the voice for a second. I've got a real nice process, and you can actually find this in my free confidence program on lesson 5, I believe. But here's what I do for those internal dialogues, or that internal voice which says, oh, you can't have that, or in this example, you don't know what you're doing, you don't have the confidence. What I do is I take quiet time. I have some quiet time where in a way, it sounds very odd, but I ask that part of me, that internal dialogue, that internal voice, and say, well, for what purpose? What's the positive intention behind this voice? Because we have to be clear. Everything that your mind and body is doing is trying to help you. It may not be doing it very well, like a fear or a phobia. It's a protection mechanism, but it's doing it in an overwhelming way. And it's the exact same thing for behaviors in general. So when that internal voice comes in, we ask the question, we take time out and reconnect with ourselves. Because what's happening here is we're out of rapport with our body. We're out of rapport, we're conflicted. So we take time out and ask that question, for what purpose? What's the positive intention behind this? And trust whatever comes up. Chances are it will be a protective mechanism. And then from there, we ask the question, well, what would that get me? For what purpose do you want that for me? And we keep on saying this same question to the answers that we get. And remember, we're after the positive intention, not the damaging behavior or thought. We can put that to one side. Let's look at the intention behind the behavior. And we keep on asking the question, for what purpose or for what intention? And that brings us up outside of the problem. Rather being stuck at the lower level of the behavior level, we're going to what it really wants in life. And at that point, we get the unconscious mind to realize the highest intention is actually in conflict with what you want in your life. Or in this situation, being positive and remaining certain in your goals. This will resolve a conflict and get your unconscious mind in alignment with achieving those goals. And that's all it really is. It's about getting every part of you in complete alignment. And all we do is ask that question, for what purpose or for what intention are you having that internal dialogue? Or you could say any behavior for that matter. We're bringing attention to your unconscious mind, but it's not really helping you. It's not really protecting you, and there's another way of doing it. Ask that question on the inside and you'll see some great changes. And I guide you through this process, I think on lesson 5 of my complete confidence program, all free in my podcast on my iPhone and Android app, and also on my website as well. So I'll put a link there on this video for that if you need any more help with it. The next question, what's your advice for things such as habits anyone can do for a better life? How often do you do them? Daily or once a week? So there's another question here, but let's conquer that one first. Well, for me, habits are best created by doing things on a consistent level. Anything you do for a consistent amount of time, X amount of times a day, it will become consistent. The thing is, sometimes we can create too many habits or have too many goals in our life that we would like to resolve or change. I always stick with the biggest one. What's the one thing which will allow you to yield the most positive change in your life? And then I always say, go ahead and do that at least once a day. If you do it once a day, your unconscious mind starts to install the habit. And that's why I say, listen to my hypnosis title, once a day for a maximum, or for 30 days for the maximum results. Because that once a day process will really get your unconscious mind to install the habit. So when you think about when you first learn anything, the chances are you learnt it quickly when you did it more often. If you do a behavior once a week, your unconscious mind can get out the program, or once a month, it definitely will get out the program. But if you start doing things once a day, it becomes a natural habit. The unconscious mind assumes responsibility for it. So I always suggest doing these habits at least once a day. And then the second part of the question, also, can you tell us ways that can be used to increase our learning speed for anything? For example, a new language or college study. So, here's what I personally do. At school, I was a terrible learner. I was absolutely terrible and I didn't do very well at all. And I wouldn't say because I wasn't intelligent, it's just because I didn't learn in the right way. For me personally, I'm a very kinesthetic person, so I really go by feelings. Now, it's really hard to learn academic things through feeling, through the sense of touch or feel, because we can see if something resonates or not, but that's pretty much it. If I was to maybe guide you through something, if you were a kinesthetic person, then you'd be able to do it physically. But if we're doing more academic things like learning a language or reading faster, the best way to do it is visual, because your unconscious mind learns far quicker in a visual process. I remember when I was doing some exams once, I'm trying to think I've got anything to hand, but I would ultimately get a piece of paper, write down the type of thing I'm wanting to learn, and then I'd put it up high in my vision. Now, this would be to your top left, and then I would just look up and see the thing I'm about to learn. I'd go ahead and look at it, where it be written down, or maybe even a picture. But let's say if we're learning a language, we'd write down that language, that thing we'd like to learn, a few words at first. And we look it up in visual. There's training our mind to recall things in a visual way and pull it back into our conscious. That's the greatest way. I mean, if you have children and you want to teach them well at language and writing, you do it visually. Also, when it comes to reading quickly, I've asked people around in the past about how they really learn quickly or how they read quickly, because I've been a slow reader for a long time at one point in my life. And they said they created images in their mind of what they're seeing. And it kind of made sense really, because it becomes like a movie in our mind. It becomes a set of pictures, like we're taking a word and putting it into a picture. And it's easier to remember that way, and it's easier to grasp what's happening. Sometimes it's okay in audio. So, for example, if you're reading one of my blogs and you're listening to my voice, it might kind of move things along because you've heard my voice before. So that's another way, but really, visually is the best way to learn in my mind, because it's a quick recall. So we write down what we're learning at first. Don't have to do it for every word we're learning, or every part of a language you're learning, or when we're reading something. It's more about doing it first so your unconscious mind learns this whole new strategy of absorbing information. So we write it down. Even if we break up the word, say it's a different language at first, and we put it in our top left as we look at it, and we just keep looking at it, we repeat it to ourselves, and we feel good about it. That way we're getting the visual, we're getting the auditory of the repeating, and the kinesthetic feel, which is an all-in-one learning strategy. So that's the best way of learning things like new languages or reading quicker, because we're going into a visual interpretation which is far quicker than, say, auditory or kinesthetic. That's what I advise. It takes a bit of time to do that, but once you get going, like practicing once a day, your unconscious mind will start to allow that to be the new process of learning. So I hope that one helps you there. The next one, I need advice regarding making decisions and how to choose a career path and find my passion. Now, I directly replied to this one, but I thought it's a great question. I've got a great video about finding your purpose and finding direction in your life. And it pretty much is called How to Find Your Purpose. And if you put How to Find Your Purpose, Joseph Clough, in YouTube or even online, it will come up with that video. And I really explain processes of how you can do that. So I'd really go for that one. But I wanted to say it just so if you're wanting that question answered, you know where you can go for it right now. The next one, I need help with insomnia. Usually the hypnosis tracks is very, very beneficial. Gets me to sleep, but there are nights of frequent waking up. Now to me, insomnia can be part of many different types of reasons. Usually it's an overactive mind, or having thoughts about things that is keeping our mind awake. So we could wake up at night because our mind's in like overdrive sometimes. Or we can't go to sleep because our thoughts are too strong on keeping us awake. So the insomnia title, which I sell, is usually gets a result straight away. But let's just say it works 70% of the time, 80%, 90%, but there's that small percentage of times where you still wake up. Here's something that I personally do for myself. Usually because the mind is active, I start to slow down that internal dialogue. And as I slow that internal dialogue down, I start to just put the tonality of it. I mean, if you've listened to my tracks before, the tonality is slower, so you can begin to mimic that type of voice. And that just slows down your brain again and your thought process, which will guide you back to sleep. But it may be something, we could say sleeping could be the presenting problem, so what you're experiencing right now, but it could be something which is not allowing you sleep, like anxiety. And then I would kind of look for my free anxiety process, free anxiety videos, and also the anxiety track. Because if you let go of the anxiety, if it was anxiety, then you'll be able to sleep deeply. Sometimes insomnia, or the lack of getting to sleep, is simply a symptom to something else like anxiety or an overactive mind. So you can quieten your internal dialogue, make it very, very slow and just nice and soothing to guide you to sleep or guide you back to sleep. Or you may want to tackle the the core issue, which could be something like anxiety, and then the sleeping behavior will just dissolve itself and you'll sleep deeply at night. Someone said, do I do individual private coaching? I do. You can find that on my website, josephclough.com. I do it on Skype and so on. Let's see what else we got here. I have always believed that we have a path in life, but conflicts with being positive and the positive things happening. What are your thoughts on this? I'd once again check out the video about finding your purpose. That will probably answer that and all the questions around your purpose. So that will resolve the conflicts there. Someone has said that they've quit smoking through the hypnosis and now next to gambling. Well, having let go of one addiction through the hypnosis app or title, go ahead and check out the gambling one because that will really help you. So that will answer that one quickly. But on another note, when it comes to things like gambling or addictions, remember your body's doing it for a certain reason. Gambling can be a form of escapism. It can be because you get enjoyment. It's about getting your unconscious mind to realize that the gambling's not helping you or the smoking's not helping you. And there's another way you can get what it wants. So like how you can get the high in another area of your life, or how you can get the comfort or the escapism without doing a bad behavior. So then you start to look for behaviors which will match the positive intention but without the gambling behavior. But the title does that as well. How do you cope with setbacks and not be set back by them, which is a great question. So how do you cope with setbacks and how do you not stay set back by them? Well, in my life, there's been quite a lot of setbacks, from business stuff to personal stuff. And to me, there's a number of things there. But first of all, I take responsibility for where I am. I take responsibility for the setback. So I don't blame others, or environments or social environments or the financial climate right now. I don't take any notice of that. Yes, it may be true, but if I take responsibility for my life, I'm willing and able to change the environment or change how I react to that environment. However, I also realize that every setback is simply a learning of how you can improve and be better. So when a setback is happening, you think, what can I learn from this situation which will allow me to be better? Because the more flexible we are in our behavior, the more adaptable we are. The reason why we're alive today is because you have adapted to the environment. There are species which have died out, yet we are thriving or surviving in this environment. So what we have to do is learn from what's happening. How can I learn from this setback? How can I learn from this so-called failure, which will allow me to get better? It's like Edison, the creator of the light bulb, was supposedly quoted or said this in an interview. He said, well, an interviewer asked the question of something like, well, how long did it take to do this? And he said, oh, well, it took like 10,000 attempts to create the light bulb. And the person said, well, you failed that amount of times. He said, well, no, I didn't fail. I just learned how not to do the light bulb, and I was one step closer, or something like that anyway. But the key learning there is that if you learn from it, you grow from it. and you adapt from it, and you become flexible in your behavior to get better and better in every way. So once you preserve those learnings, that's going to really help you. But to me, the way I see things is, but if here's where I am right now, and here's where I want to be, along the way, there's going to be maybe some setbacks. There might be events which happen. I go, oh, well, that was a knockback, or that was a setback. But what I try to do is I keep my mind on the big picture. I realize that my big picture of where I'm heading is where I've got to put my attention. So no matter what the setback is I'm always aligned with the big picture. And when I'm aligned to that big picture, it doesn't matter how I'm going to get there. If I have to zigzag to get there, maneuver around setbacks, I know that our mind's there. The problem is when we get our mind stuck on that setback. When we get stuck on that setback, that's where things go wrong. We can get into that give up, or I can't do this anymore. But the key is to have your mind on the great big picture. It's very much, I remember with my free podcasts, people saying, well, why are you doing this? Why are you giving all this stuff for free? Well, my big picture is to help the world to be able to do things, and I believe good will come from that. Even financially in the future, that will happen, and that will really help me to have the security that I desire and so on. And a lot of the time my family and even friends said, don't do it. Don't give away all your stuff, because it's good quality, which it is. However, I had my mind on a big picture, so I made sacrifices for doing this in time and in money. In fact, I invest a lot of money in updating things or hosting audio. So I was always having my mind on the big picture, because I know that will come into fruition, because that's where I'm heading. Despite any setbacks, despite any criticisms, despite other people telling me not to, despite drawbacks, whether it be processes or programs failing on me, no matter if I record a video or if something's happening in my life, my mind is always on the big picture. There's been times in my health where it hasn't been that good, and there'd be times I'm not getting anywhere. But my mind was on the big picture. When I do that, then I'm able to stay in alignment where I'm heading. So no matter what setback, I know I can learn from it, I've taken responsibility for it, and I'm heading to my desired outcome, the big picture. So that's how I'll deal with that. Then I've got another one here, is any additional help for eating disorders, body image problems would be great. Okay, so eating disorders. Now, I've also got my audio for that as well, but I would look for, once again, the intention behind the eating disorder. There's always about intention as to why we do what we do. When you think of disorder in itself, it's kind of like our body is out of order, and therefore, to me, it's very much like it's in conflict. I work with getting rapport with my body to resolve that disorder, and to be able to get order in the system of who I am. Spending time with myself, my quiet time, to be able to kind of get back into rapport of who I am. And by doing this with, say, eating disorders, I begin to understand what the intention is behind the behavior, and get the unconscious mind to realize that what it's presently doing isn't helping, isn't supporting me, and how it can actually come up with a new way of doing things. And when it comes to body image, it's about getting in the forefront of your mind the healthy body, and to have that in the forefront of your mind, because we are, as humans, we are deleters, distorters, and generalizers. We generalize our past experience sometimes. We distort what we're really seeing in the world, and we can delete certain bits of information in our reality to fit our present model of the world. So the whole idea is about getting clear as possible by letting go of limiting beliefs, getting that connection, resolving that intention behind it. Once again, go on the Complete Confidence Program, Lesson 5, I believe. If that's not right, I will correct it on the link here. I'm sure it's Lesson 5. It's a great process which will resolve that. So it's really about changing your relationship to yourself and the behavior itself. That will do it, and also taking time out to reconnect with who you are as a person. And coming up with a new map of the world, a new ideal of what a healthy body is. Not necessarily just the image, but what type of, if you were to imagine in your mind a picture of the ideal eating habits, the ideal body shape, in just getting clear with that, that becomes the new mindset. At the moment, it could be just past behaviors you're running by. But as we start to change our direction and developing this connection with ourselves, with this new map of the world, that will change how your body reacts, and it will change its relationship with food itself, or with eating behaviors, and even your own self-body image and so on. By starting I can't even say the word, distinguishing the difference between the past and the present and where you're heading. Even if we go back to the big picture again, allowing our mind to go for a new way of doing things. It can take time to do this because we can be running from a subjective, distorted view. But I'd kind of researched what is an ideal of being just healthy. What is the way of eating healthy? Or our relationship to food, or certain eating patterns, and becoming conscious of that and allowing that to be in the forefront of our mind, whether we're just connecting with ourselves, communicating with ourselves. And in time, if we do that, and even if, for example, another tip here, as you go to sleep at night, go ahead and rehearse how you would like to be the next day in your eating habits and how you would like to see yourself. By doing that for 10 minutes as you go to sleep, you're going to pre-teach your unconscious mind how you're going to act and react tomorrow. And you do that every day, and you're just resetting and recalibrating your mind to go through this new strategy. So that's going to really help there. Okay, so let's go to the next one. How do you know if you're able to be hypnotized? I'm reading your book, and I did the first session and fell asleep. I don't think I'm supposed to fall asleep, which is frustration. I want to purchase a Stop Smoking CD, but I want to make sure I can hypnotize. So let's get it real clear here. First of all going into hypnosis is subjective. People experience it to greater or lesser degrees. Some people are aware of everything I'm saying. Some people will fall asleep, and that's okay. The first hour of going to sleep, your unconscious mind will absorb all the suggestions that I'm saying. It's still alert enough to be able to take on those suggestions. So go ahead and still listen to it. And a lot of people actually do, primarily, listen to my audio as they go to sleep with great effect. So going to sleep is not a problem. And sometimes it's quite weird that hypnosis, a deep form of hypnosis, can feel like being asleep. But sometimes we just wake up right at the end. That is a perfect example of being in a very deep trance. So I wouldn't really worry about falling asleep or it feeling like going to sleep. But let's just say you wanted to change it, become more conscious of this. Get yourself in an upright position. So you're sitting up rather than laying down. Because sometimes people will listen to the hypnosis track as in bed or at night time. Now, if you do it both at the same time, your body thinks that that's a sleeping environment. So it's best to be able to put your mind and body in a place which isn't the sleeping environment, which could be like just sitting in a chair like this. It could be just generally sitting on a sofa, and that will allow your mind to think, oh, it's not time to sleep, if that's the case. So get yourself in an upright position. I mean, people can go into trance standing up. I don't advise it when listening to this stuff, but people can do it. So I would just get yourself in a more upright position when it comes to this. But you will definitely take on all those learnings still as you go to sleep. I've been wondering about the uses of hypnosis with teens. Well, first of all, that's very, very powerful. A lot of people get great results. And the follow-up question is, if they're unwilling to try it, can you ask the unconscious instead? Well, I'm really in for cooperation. I really want people to, for example, when I was a child, and if someone said, look, if you've got this low confidence and anxiety and worry, would you like to let go of it? I would have said, well, yes, I'd like to. And I wouldn't have minded what it was. So it's important that the client or the child or the teenager wants to change and they're fully aware of how they would like to be. So if they're unwilling, I would probably figure out why they're unwilling here. because there must be a positive intention behind it, and maybe they just don't know enough about it. So that's where education comes into point. I'd never do hypnosis with someone who doesn't want to, whether it be an adult or a child. I'd want them to be able to get the results and realize that that's what's happening. If you're doing unwilling, you're fighting against someone, which is never going to work. Hypnosis works for people, for everyone, but they've got to be willing to listen and pay attention. So if anything, if they're unwilling, it just means they don't know enough about hypnosis. And you need to educate them and make them feel comfortable with it. But in general, hypnosis with teenagers, with children, has been amazing. I see clients with this. A lot of teenagers have gone to my seminars, like 10, 15-year-olds have gone to my seminars, and they love it because they want to be there. But if someone doesn't want to be there, I'd never work with them, and I'd never allow them on my seminar or my trainings. They just have to have the intention and want to change. And if they're unwilling, you bring it to their attention and educate them to the best as possible. But it's very, very powerful. Someone else said about how do I stop myself falling asleep, which I've just answered. Get yourself in an upright position, but your body will still take it on. In fact, it just says here as well, I've had another hypnotist say that it's my mind refusing to actively participate in the suggestions, and I should look as to why I'm fighting it. I'm not going to say that hypnotist is wrong, although it can be times we can be fighting, but I wouldn't say falling asleep is your unconscious mind's way of fighting it. It could be just a very deep trance again. Just being more, for all we know, the hypnotist could be going wrong, not being the best hypnotist. For all we know, it could be that you're in a sleeping position or a sleeping environment. So I'd really get into the utmost upright position. I wouldn't take on his suggestion that it's your mind refusing to actively participate. That's not the case in my world. And I've got quite a bit of experience, and I just don't really see how that makes sense. How do you not let people see your pain? That way, that you want to inspire other people by what you're doing, but at the same time, not show you that you're struggling just as much as they are. That's a great question. Now, first of all, I would work on myself and continue to work on myself to be an example of how they can change. Now, even if you're doing it, the very nature of you working yourself is an example that they can make a change as well. So I would really work upon myself and allow that to be an example to them. And in general, if we go back to the big picture, say for example, there's a few of my friends and we're in a situation and it just looks a bit bleak about what's happening. Even if I think, wow, I don't want to be able to not get this thing, and I want to be able to support them, although I'm not quite sure yet how we're going to get there, how we're going to succeed in this, I want to be able to come across as congruent. So I really say in a congruent way, and I see how I'd like the situation to end. And I summon my unconscious mind to support me with this and support those around me. So it's really about digging deep. It's about taking that responsibility and having a big picture in mind. To think, okay, despite our present struggles together, we're going to overcome this. We're going to achieve this and be an example of an inspiration that you're willing and capable, that you have that internal belief system despite your present situation. That causes them. So even if they see you struggling, that doesn't matter to them most of the time because they don't see the struggle. They see you beginning to take control of a situation, that you're actively working. That gives hope. That gives them an example of how they can get better. So it's not about appearing as Superman or being strong. I mean, I on my podcast, I tell you about what I've been through or what I've gone through or what I'm presently going through. And I don't think people think that as an uninspiring thing to do. It actually makes us human. It means I'm not trying to be this guru, godlike Superman person. I'm a real person. I have issues to this day, but I'm continuously working myself and I know that I'm going to get there. That is far more inspiring rather just pretending. It's not about just pretending to be a certain thing or pretending that you're going to be a certain way. Inspiring someone is being real. So I will ask you to be real and keep your mind on the big picture and get to there, and that will cause them to have an example of how they can actually go from struggling into a more empowering viewpoint. So I hope that works. Let's see the next one. Mine is, no matter how much NLP positive energy I do, I still hit rock bottom. What am I doing wrong? I want to say what you're doing wrong, because it's not anything necessary about you consciously. I'll try to figure out, you know what I was saying on the sleeping, that we might have symptoms in our lives, but we're not paying attention to the root cause. I would probably figure out what is a belief that I have about myself which is making all this happen. What is a mindset or what's happening within me which is creating all this? Go to the deeper core. A lot of the time we can have a lot of symptoms and the issues, but the core part, if we let go of that, it's like taking the root out. Therefore, none of the weeds can actually exist anymore. We're really resolving the core. Go ahead and check out my confidence program. There's some great examples how to find the core issue in that. Once again, it's on my app, it's all free, it's on my podcast, on my website. That will allow you to do it. So I would look for the core reason as to why this keeps happening. And by why, I don't mean finding reasons, excuses, but really like the limiting belief system. For example, people could go, well, I'm doing all this NLP, all this hypnosis, but if at a deeper surface, at an unconscious level, I don't believe I'm good enough or capable of achieving a result, no matter how much work I'm doing, if that belief system is still there and it's not like we're not resolving that belief system, it's going to carry on happening. We're going to continue to kind of trip ourselves up or self-sabotage or stay away from the success. And we're going to remain at this, in these words, rock bottom. Find out the limiting belief system behind that. That's going to really make a change. Resolve that and all your other symptoms will disappear and you'll be able to find the success that you desire. So I hope that one helps. So in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this one here. I mean, we've done a good 15 questions. Like I said, I've got another 10, 15 to go, but we're on like 40 minutes almost already, which is crazy. But hopefully that's been an adequate amount of time. I will release another video in the next few days or so, next week, just to break it up. But I will be answering all the other questions on Facebook and Twitter in an upcoming video. I'm going to try and make this more regular. I'm going to probably try and do some live ones as well, so you can type away and talk to me, and I can answer you there and then. I think that'd be pretty cool. That means I get to talk to you more in person. Even maybe there's some technology we can do that you can actually call me up and I can reply to you, like a call-in show type of thing on video. That'd be awesome. So hopefully I can do something like that. But I will get onto these others. But in the meantime, go ahead and visit my website, josephclough.com. Go ahead and visit my podcast on iTunes. Just type in my name or get my free download on my free app on iTunes, especially the updated version. Got lots of cool stuff there, lots of free work, and also my Android one, which will be updated soon. I plan to roll this out to other apps as well, but it's very expensive to do, and it's because it's pushing on my free stuff, there's only so much I can do right now at one time. So I'm going to roll it out in a comfortable business way, but I'm not going to sacrifice anything, clear out any bugs, and then we can roll on to the next one. But hope you enjoy that. Go ahead and visit my website, or my Facebook page, facebook.com/Joseph's fan page, and twitter.com/Joseph Clough. So you can get actively involved here and I can help you and answer any questions that you have. So have a wonderful day and I'll speak to you very, very soon. Many thanks and goodbye.